The horn sounds across 9 realms. A cry older than grief, louder than thunder. Every god, every giant, every sleeping mortal opens their eyes. Fire giants march across the rainbow bridge. Each step cracks the burning light beneath them. The bridge screams, fractures spreading like veins of darkness. Heimdall draws his sword. He has watched for this moment since before human memory began. He always knew it would come. He chose to stay anyway. Of all the gods, Heimdall stood alone the longest. Not in battle, in silence, watching the horizon for a threat that might never come, knowing it would. He could hear a single blade of grass pushing through frozen soil in Midgard. He could see frost giants stirring in their sleep 100 leagues away, every whisper, every heartbeat. What does it cost a god to hear everything and choose to stay? That question echoes through 3,000 years of storytelling. And tonight, through your room. Get comfortable now. Pull the covers close. This is a story the Norse told on the longest, darkest winter nights, when the wind howled and the fire was the only warmth. If you fall asleep before the bridge shatters, that's fine. Heimdall keeps watch so no one else has to. Let him watch over your rest tonight. Our story begins before Heimdall, before the bridge, before Asgard's golden walls. It begins in the nothing that came before everything, in the void called Ginnunga Gap. Fire and ice met in the emptiness. Muspelheim's heat clashed with Nephilim's frost, and from that collision, the first giant was born, Ymir, ancestor of all. Odin and his brothers slew Ymir. From his flesh they made the earth. From his blood, the oceans. From his skull, the dome of the sky itself. 9 realms took shape along the branches and roots of Yggdrasil, the great ash tree. Gods above, mortals in the middle, giants and the dead below. But the gods feared the giants. The old powers, the primal forces that ruled before order, they pressed against every border. Asgard needed a gate and a gatekeeper. So the gods built the Bifrost, a bridge of fire, ice, and sacred light burning between the realms. Beautiful and terrible, a road that could also be a weapon. The bridge needed someone who never slept, who never looked away. Someone born between worlds, belonging fully to none. The gods searched the 9 realms. At the edge of the world, where ocean meets the void, 9 great waves rose together. 9 wave maidens, daughters of the sea, gathered at the rim of creation. They sang him into being. 9 mothers for one child, born from salt water and starlight, nourished on the cold sea, the strength of earth, and boar's blood. Heimdall opened his eyes for the first time and saw everything. Every realm, every creature, every shadow. From his first breath, the watch had already begun. The 9 wave maidens did not simply give birth. They poured themselves into the child, their fury, their patience, their ancient knowing of tides and time. Gielp gave him the strength of riptides. Grape gave him the patience of deep water. Isla gave him eyes that could pierce any darkness, any distance. Each mother left something behind. A piece of herself dissolved into the child. 9 women became 8, then 7. Their forms thinned like mist at dawn. When the last mother returned to the sea, Heimdall stood alone on the rocks, already tall, already watching. A child with the eyes of something far older. He heard the world breathing. Whales singing in the deep. Snow settling on mountain peaks 3 realms away. The creak of Yggdrasil's branches shifting in cosmic wind. Odin found him there. The Allfather rode Sleipnir across the void, drawn by reports of a child who glowed like a small sun at the rim of everything. "What do you see, child?" Odin asked. Heimdall did not look at him. His gaze was fixed on something impossibly far away. "Everything," he said. "I see everything." Odin understood loneliness. He had hung from the world tree for 9 days, screaming into the void. He recognized that same isolation in the child's golden eyes. The Allfather brought Heimdall to Asgard. Golden towers rose beyond the Bifrost, and the child walked the rainbow bridge for the first time, feeling it hum beneath his feet. The gods stared. A golden child with white hair, walking among them like he had always belonged, yet looking through them, past them, at something they could not perceive. Thor clapped the boy's shoulder and laughed. Another warrior for Asgard. But Heimdall was never meant for battle halls and feasting tables. He was meant for the edge. Freyja placed her hand on his cheek. Her tears fell as gold. "You poor thing," she whispered. "You already know what's coming, don't you?" Odin led Heimdall to the place where the Bifrost met Asgard. A cliff called Himinjargi Heaven's Cliffs. Cold wind, clear sky. The bridge humming below like a living thing. "This is your post," Odin said. "The bridge, the gate. The space between what we are and what wants to destroy us. Will you hold it?" Heimdall did not hesitate. He had been born for this. 9 mothers had spent themselves to create a guardian. He simply said yes, the way the tide answers the moon. They forged him armor of silver, white metal, inscribed with runes of waking and warning. They gave him H-Fui, a sword that burned cold, not for conquest, but for defense. And they gave him Jallarhorn, carved from the root of Yggdrasil itself. One blast would reach every corner of existence. He was to blow it only once, only at the end. Now, there is another figure you must know, one who moves through this story like a crack through ice. Loki, the shape-shifter. The lie that walks. Loki was not born a god. He was a giant's son bound to Odin by a blood oath. Brothers in name, opposites in nature. Chaos sworn to serve order. His lips bore scars where dwarves once sewed them shut. Punishment for a trick gone wrong, even silent. Loki's eyes spoke volumes of mischief and malice and hurt. He fathered monsters. The wolf Fenrir, whose jaws could swallow the sun. The serpent Geirmungundur coiled around the entire world. And Hel, cold queen of the dead. The gods feared Loki's children and bound them. Chained the wolf, cast the serpent into the sea, banished Hel to the underworld. Loki watched, Loki remembered. Between Heimdall and Loki, the hatred ran deeper than politics or rivalry. It was elemental, like the opposition between fire and water, seeing and hiding. Heimdall saw everything, every lie, every hidden motive, every mask. Loki lived behind masks. To be truly seen was the one thing the trickster could not endure. "You stare too much, watchman," Loki once hissed across the feasting table. Heimdall simply held his gaze. That silence infuriated Loki more than any insult. Freyja kept the peace between them, when she could. Her beauty calmed the halls, her laughter softened old grudges. Around her neck, the Bræsingamen blazed like captured starfire. The dwarves had forged that necklace in their underground halls. 4 master smiths, 4 nights of work, 4 prices paid. Freyja never spoke of what those prices were. Asgard in those days still felt eternal. Gods feasted and quarreled and loved as if the world would never end. Only 2 beings knew otherwise: Odin, who had seen prophecy, and Heimdall, who could feel it approaching. Night after night, Heimdall stood at his post. The Bifrost hummed beneath him. Stars wheeled overhead. He counted the heartbeats of sleeping mortals 3 realms below. Sometimes a fox would cross the bridge at dawn, a real fox, not Loki in disguise. Heimdall always checked. He could tell the difference by the sound of its heartbeat. He learned the rhythms of all 9 realms the way a musician learns an instrument. The crash of Tunheim's glaciers. The whisper of Alfheim's forests. The silence of Hel's domain. Cold settled into his bones over the centuries. Not the cold of winter, the cold of solitude. Of standing where no one stands beside you. Listening to a world that doesn't listen back. Other gods visited sometimes. Thor would bring mid and tell stories of battles. But even Thor could not stay long. The edge was not a place for the living, only for the watching. Heimdall never complained. The sea does not complain about the shore. The moon does not complain about the dark. He was what he was made to be. But sometimes, rarely, he would press his hand flat against the Bifrost's surface and feel the warmth of Midgard far below. Human warmth. Hearth fires and held hands and sleeping children. He knew every mortal by their heartbeat. The steady drum of the farmer. The quick flutter of the child. The slow fade of the dying elder. He attended each one. This was the god the Norse most trusted. Not the strongest, not the wisest, the most faithful. The one who would never leave his post, Never look away, never rest. Loki watched Heimdall the way a wolf watches a fence, testing, circling, looking for the weakness that was not there. The trickster could not stand perfection. Does he ever blink? Loki asked the other gods, laughing, but the laugh had edges. Heimdall's vigilance was Loki's prison. Every secret watched, every trick witnessed. Their hatred was the oldest story, the one who reveals versus the one who conceals. Light against shadow. The eye that never closes against the face that never stops changing. And yet, the gods needed both. Order without chaos grows brittle. Vigilance without threat has no purpose. Even Heimdall understood this, though he never said it aloud. The Vikings who first told this story lived at the edge of the known world themselves. Beyond their fjords, the North Atlantic stretched toward mystery. Every harbor needed a watchman. Their world was one of thresholds, the tide line between land and sea, the tree line between farm and wilderness, the horizon between the known and the nothing beyond. So they imagined a god who guarded the greatest threshold of all, the burning bridge between the human world and the divine, because someone must always be standing between. They valued watchfulness because the sea taught them what happens when you stop paying attention. One rogue wave, one shifting wind, one unseen reef. Vigilance meant survival. Heimdall was their hope made divine. The promise that someone watches, someone cares, someone stands between you and the darkness while you sleep. Even now, centuries turned on the world tree's branches. Heimdall grew into his vigil the way a tree grows into stone, slowly, completely, until the two could not be separated. He learned to read the silence between sounds, the pause between a giant's footfalls that meant it was thinking, the gap in a bird's song that meant a predator circled. His gold teeth caught the starlight when he rarely smiled. The other gods called him Gullintani, gold tooth, a name that made him sound friendlier than his vigil allowed. Some nights the northern lights danced across his armor, and he stood perfectly still, letting the colors wash over him. Those were the closest moments to peace he ever found. He noticed everything that changed and everything that stayed the same. A mountain in Jotunheim eroding one grain at a time. A mortal family in Midgard passing their farm through 7 generations. Odin's ravens Hugin and Munin sometimes rested on Heimdall's shoulders between flights. Thought and memory perching on the shoulders of vigilance. The ravens brought news, a war in Midgard, a shifting in the giant realms, a tremor in the chains that held Fenrir. Heimdall absorbed it all without flinching. Loki in those years still walked free among the gods, still helped them sometimes, still betrayed them others, a fire that warms and burns in the same breath. He helped Thor retrieve his stolen hammer from the giants, disguising the thunder god as a bride. Loki laughed for weeks. Even Heimdall smiled from the bridge. But each kindness Loki showed was a coin with 2 sides. Help given freely today became leverage for tomorrow's trick. The gods kept forgiving. Heimdall kept watching. As ages passed, Heimdall began to wonder about the mortals he protected. Tiny lives, brief candles. Yet they burned with a heat that no immortal flame could match. Their prayers drifted up like smoke. Help my child, bring the fish, let the storm pass. Small prayers, enormous faith. Heimdall heard every syllable. He decided to walk among them. Not as a god, as a man. He set aside his armor, dimmed his golden skin, and crossed the Bifrost downward, the watchman descending from his tower. He called himself Grar, a wanderer, a stranger with kind eyes and good manners, who appeared at farmhouse doors asking for shelter and a meal. The first house was poor. A thrall's home, dirt floor, thin walls, coarse bread. But they welcomed him without question. They had almost nothing and shared half of it. He stayed 3 nights. He blessed their household in ways they would never know. When he left, the woman carried a child who would become the ancestor of all laborers. The second house was comfortable. A carle's home, free farmers with warm hearth, good ale, bread with butter. They welcomed him to a full table and a real bed. 3 nights again. 3 nights of stories by the fire, of learning how mortals measure their days. by harvests, by children's growth, by the slow turning of seasons. He blessed them too. The child born after would father the free farmers of the world, people who build with their hands and measure wealth in good soil and strong fences. The third house was a Jarl's hall. Silver on the table, tapestries on the walls, mead in golden cups. The Jarl's wife wore silk and studied the stranger with sharp, intelligent eyes. Here Heimdall lingered longest. He taught the Jarl's son the secrets of runes, letters that were also magic, carved into wood and bone and the fabric of reality itself. The child born in that hall would become the first true king. Rhaegar's blood, Heimdall's blood, running through every Norse ruler's veins, the watchman's legacy made flesh. Heimdall returned to the Bifrost changed. He had slept in mortal beds, eaten mortal food, held mortal children. Now the heartbeats he monitored had faces. His vigil deepened. Before, he guarded the bridge out of duty. Now he guarded it out of love. There is a difference, and the 9 realms could feel it. Loki noticed the change. "You smell like humans now, watchman," he called from the shadows. "Careful. Caring makes you weak." Heimdall said nothing. He did not need to. Years flowed like rivers. The world tree dropped its leaves and grew new ones. Empires of mortals rose and crumbled while gods aged like mountains, imperceptibly. Heimdall watched a wolf in Jotunheim teach her pups to hunt. Watched a star die beyond the rim of Muspelheim. Watched Odin's remaining eye grow heavier with sorrow. The Allfather visited the Bifrost less often now. When he came, he stood beside Heimdall without speaking. 2 gods looking into the dark, both knowing what stirred there. Heimdall wanted to ask, "Do we fight, knowing we lose?" But he already knew Odin's answer. The question was never whether to fight, only how to stand. The bridge hummed its ancient 3-note song beneath their feet. Fire, ice, and sacred light, the same forces that built the world, holding it together one more night. Odin left without farewell. Heimdall resumed his watch. Somewhere below, a child in Midgard dreamed of a rainbow, and the golden man who stood upon it, keeping her safe. Loki moved through Asgard that night like smoke through a keyhole. The gods slept. The fires burned low. Only one pair of eyes tracked him, golden, unblinking far away on the bridge. Freyja's chamber door was sealed with divine wards. Loki laughed at them. He became a flea, small enough to slip through the crack beneath the door, small enough to bite a goddess awake. He bit her throat where the necklace clasped. She turned in her sleep, and the Bressy Singeman's catch shifted open. Loki seized it with hands that reformed from nothing. On the Bifrost Heimdall's breath caught. He felt the theft like a wound. The balance of Asgard tilting, a sacred thing torn from its rightful place. He was already running. Loki fled south, past the golden halls, past the walls, past the edge of Asgard into open sky. He shifted forms mid-leap, man becoming hawk, hawk becoming wind. Heimdall did not shout. He did not call for help. This was between them, the watcher and the thief, the eye and the shadow. It had always been coming. Heimdall leaped from the bridge and became something impossible. A falcon of white fire, burning through the night sky, faster than any shape Loki had ever taken. The chase crossed 3 realms. Over Midgard's sleeping fields, through Vanaheim's silver forests, down toward the cold northern sea where ice meets the void. Loki dove into the ocean. Feathers became scales, wings became fins. He was a salmon now, silver and fast. Cutting through black water toward the reef called Singastine, Heimdall crashed into the sea after him, his white fire extinguished in the cold. He became a seal, massive, dark-eyed, powerful, built for exactly this kind of water. Darkness surrounded them. The deep ocean has no light, only pressure and cold and the ancient things that live where the sun has never reached. The salmon darted through a forest of kelp, twisting, doubling back, using every trick a shape, shifter knows. The seal followed with a patience that borders on cruelty. Singastine rose from the sea floor, a jagged reef of black rock and phosphorescent coral. The salmon dove behind it. The seal surged around the other side. They collided in a cloud of sand and scales. Seal teeth found salmon flesh. The water erupted with divine blood, golden from one, dark green from the other. They fought as seals then, two massive bodies slamming against Singastine's rock, tusks and bulk and fury. The reef cracked under their weight, fish fled for miles. Loki shifted again. Seal to serpent, serpent to eel, eel to octopus. 8 arms wrapping around Heimdall's bulk, trying to crush or escape. Heimdall held. The watchman did not need to change shape. He only needed to not let go. That was his gift, his terrible, beautiful gift. The ability to hold on when everything tries to slip away. Loki exhausted his shapes. He collapsed back into himself. Trickster god, gasping and bleeding, tangled in kelp on the broken reef. The bristly singamen slipped from his fingers. Heimdall rose from the water in his own form, the necklace streaming light in his golden hand. Salt water ran from his white hair. His amber eyes had not blinked once. He returned the necklace to Freyja before dawn. She clasped it to her throat without a word. Golden tears fell, but whether from gratitude or from knowing who had taken it, she never said. Loki did not forget. The trickster never forgot a humiliation. He filed it away in that dark room where he kept all his grievances, all his plans, all his patient fury. Seasons folded into each other. The theft became legend among the gods. How the watchman chased the trickster to the bottom of the sea and brought back what was sacred. Heimdall returned to silence. That was always his way. Action when needed, stillness when not. The bridge accepted him back like the shore accepts the tide. But something had shifted between the watcher and the trickster. Their enmity now carried weight. Real combat, real blood, real defeat. The next battle would be the last. Time carried Asgard forward. New adventures called the gods away. Thor's journeys, Odin's wanderings, Freyja's wars. The bridge stood steady. The watchman did not waver. Thor brought Heimdall a gift one winter. A cloak woven from the northern lights, shimmering with green and violet. Even watchmen should have something beautiful, he said. Heimdall wore it on the coldest nights. It kept nothing warm. Gods do not feel cold. But it kept something else. The knowledge that someone remembered he was there. One night a sound reached him that froze his blood. Not a sound from Jotunheim or Muspelheim, but from beneath. From the roots of the world tree, Fenrir's chain groaning. The chain held. It held that night, and the next, and the next. But Heimdall could hear the metal remembering its limits. Even magic has a breaking point. Heimdall reported to Odin. The Allfather listened, then nodded slowly. I know, he said. I have always known. His one eye held galaxies of sorrow. Then why do we still stand guard? Heimdall asked. The first question he had asked in centuries. Odin smiled. Because standing is the point, not the outcome. Heimdall carried that answer back to the bridge. He turned it over in his mind the way the sea turns stones. Slowly, endlessly, wearing it smooth. Standing is the point. Not winning. Not preventing. Just standing. The bridge beneath him hummed as if it agreed. The stars turned overhead in their ancient dance. Loki, meanwhile, had grown bolder. His tricks turned darker, less mischief, more malice. The gods laughed less at his jokes. Some stopped laughing entirely. He mocked Heimdall at every feast. The golden guard dog, he sneered. Chained to his post like my son Fenrir. At least the wolf will break free someday. But words were not Loki's true weapon. His true weapon was patience. He had learned it from the thing he hated most, from watching Heimdall watch. There was one god Loki could not touch, Baldur, the beautiful, son of Odin, loved by everything that exists. The gods had made every creature swear never to harm him. Every creature, except the mistletoe. Small, soft, harmless mistletoe. The gods thought it too young, too weak to bother asking. Loki learned this, and Loki smiled. The gods made a game of their invulnerability, throwing stones and spears at Baldur, laughing as each weapon bounced away. Only blind Heir stood apart, unable to joke. Let me help you aim, Loki whispered, pressing the mistletoe dart into Aeir's hand. Everyone should get to honor their brother. The blind god smiled. He threw. The mistletoe pierced Baldur's heart. He fell without a sound, like sunlight going out. The laughter died. The garden darkened. Every living thing in the 9 realms felt the loss. Heimdall felt it on the bridge, a silence where Baldr's heartbeat had been, not the silence of sleep or distance. The silence of absence, the most terrible sound a watchman can hear. Freyja's scream reached him next, golden tears pouring, the Bree Singaman blazing with her grief. Then Thor's roar, shaking the foundations, then Odin's terrible knowing silence. They found Loki laughing in the shadows. Not his clever laugh, something broken, something that had given up pretending. He had crossed the line from trickster to destroyer. The gods seized Loki. They dragged him to a cave beneath the earth. They bound him with the entrails of his own murdered son. Cruelty answering cruelty, grief answering grief. A serpent hung above him, dripping venom onto his face. His wife Sigyn held a bowl to catch the drops. When the bowl filled and she turned to empty it, the venom hit, and his screams shook the earth. Heimdall heard the first earthquake from the bridge. He knew its source. The earth splitting above Loki's prison. The trickster's pain written in broken ground and fallen trees. With Loki imprisoned, Asgard fell quiet. Too quiet. The gods mourned Baldur and went through the motions of eternity, feasting without joy, fighting without purpose. Heimdall alone maintained his rhythm. Watch. Listen. Endure. The bridge still needed guarding. The giant still probed. The wolf still strained. Duty does not mourn. The storytellers who shaped these tales understood something about grief. They lived through harsh winters where death visited every household. Loss was not a chapter, it was the weather. Their gods grieved as they grieved. Openly, violently, without pretending it would be all right. Norse mythology does not promise happy endings. It promises the courage to keep going. Baldur's death was not just tragedy. It was prophecy confirmed. The gods had always known Ragnarok was coming. Now its first domino had fallen. The countdown began. For the Vikings, this was not a flaw in the story. It was the truth of it. Everything ends. What matters is what you do between the beginning and the fire. And so the gods kept feasting. The warriors kept training. And Heimdall kept watching, not because the end could be stopped, but because the watching itself was sacred. The seasons after Baldur's death moved differently. Longer shadows, shorter days. The world tree's leaves yellowed at the edges, as if autumn had touched something cosmic. Heimdall tracked every change. A glacier in Niflheim advancing 3 inches. A volcanic vent in Muspelheim widening. The fire giants forging one more sword. Enormous things. He counted the fire giants' swords. 7,000, 8,000, 9. Every blade a promise that someone intended to cross his bridge. He remembered each one. In Jotunheim, the frost giants grew restless. They tested Asgard's borders more frequently. A raiding party here, a mountain hurled there. Each time, the Bifrost burned them back. Heimdall met each incursion calmly. Esfu sang in the cold air, and giants learned again what they always forgot. The bridge had a keeper, and the keeper did not sleep. After each battle, he cleaned his blade, checked his armor, and resumed watching. No celebration, no war stories. Violence was not the purpose. It was the interruption. The Norns at the Well of Fate carved new lines into Yggdrasil's bark. Past, present, and future tangled together like roots. Even they could not change what they wrote. Heimdall sometimes walked to the well. He never asked to see his own fate. He already knew. 2 figures on a burning field. 2 swords. One outcome for both. He walked back to the bridge. He always walked back to the bridge. What else would a watchman do with the knowledge of his own death? He would watch. He would wait. He would stand. Midgard below continued its mortal dance. Generations of Heimdall's descendants grew and multiplied. Thralls, farmers, kings, all carrying a trace of divine blood they could not feel. They prayed to Thor for strength, to Odin for wisdom, to Freyja for love. Few prayed to Heimdall. You do not think to thank the one who keeps the door. You just expect it to hold. But mothers sometimes whispered his name over cradles. Heimdall watch over you. A small prayer. The truce kind. The kind you say in the dark when no one else is listening. He heard every one, filed them alongside the wolf's growling, and the serpent's shifting, and the fire giant's hammering. The lullabies and the war drums held in the same attention. The world tree groaned in a new wind. Ratatoskr the squirrel stopped running between eagle and serpent. Even that tiny chaos creature sensed the change. Something was tightening. Heimdall tightened his grip on Jallarhorn. Not yet. Not yet. But his fingers knew the curve of it, like a musician knows their instrument. When the time came, there would be no hesitation. Deep beneath the earth, Loki's prison grew colder. The venom dripped. Sigyn's arms ached. The earthquakes came more frequently now. Loki's pain shaking mountains. Sigyn's devotion was its own kind of vigilance. She had not left Loki's side since his binding, catching poison, emptying bowls, returning. The loyal wife of the world's destroyer. Heimdall could hear her too, the splash of venom in the bowl, her quiet breathing, her whispered words to Loki, words of comfort for the one who had killed joy itself. Love in these stories never comes without cost. Freyja paid for beauty, Odin paid for wisdom, Sigyn paid for loyalty, and Heimdall paid for sight with solitude. A comet crossed the sky above Jotunheim. Heimdall tracked its arc, not a natural comet but a signal. The fire giants were lighting beacons, summoning, preparing. Surt stood in Muspelheim, his sword brighter than the sun. The Lord of Fire had waited since before the gods were born. His patience made Heimdall's look like impatience. In the ocean, Jormungandr shifted, the world serpent releasing its own tail for the first time since creation. Tidal waves struck every coast. Fishermen drowned without knowing why. Fenrir's chain sang a high, thin note, like a wire about to snap. Heimdall heard it clearly. The pitch had been rising for centuries. Now it neared its limit. Heimdall's hand found the Jallarhorn. He lifted it an inch, then set it down. Not yet, close, but not yet. The horn would sound exactly once. It had to be right. He spoke to the bridge beneath him. Words older than language. Vibrations, hums, the frequency of creation itself. The Bifrost answered by burning a little brighter. Asgard's walls had been repaired 1,000 times, each repair weaker than the last. The gods pretended not to notice. Heimdall counted every crack. Thor sharpened Mjolnir and told himself it was routine. Odin consulted the runes and told himself it was curiosity. Everyone prepared while pretending they were not preparing. Only Heimdall prepared honestly. He had always been preparing. Every moment of his vigil had been preparation for the moment it would end. A cold wind blew from the north. Not a normal wind. This one carried the smell of Niflheim's ice. The boundary between realms was thinning, like skin stretched too tight. The sun dimmed. Not much, a fraction of its light swallowed by something vast moving between the realms. Skilil the wolf, who had chased the sun since creation, was gaining. Heimdall watched the sun dim and felt something he had not felt in millennia. Not fear. He had moved past fear long ago. Something quieter. The recognition that the time was almost here. He touched the Jallarhorn one more time. Ran his fingers along the runes carved in Yggdrasil's own wood. Each rune a letter in the alphabet of ending. Below the earth, a sound like the world cracking. Glipnir, the chain of impossible things, made from the breath of a fish and the roots of a mountain, began to unravel. Fenrir opened his jaws. The upper jaw touched the sky. The lower jaw touched the earth. A mouth wide enough to swallow the sun, the moon, the hope of gods. The wolf's howl shattered ice in Niflheim. Woke the dead in Hell's domain. Cracked the last illusion that tomorrow would be like today. And in his cave, Loki felt the chains of his own prison weaken. The same cosmic unraveling that freed Fenrir freed the father. Sigyn dropped her bowl. The cave filled with venom and laughter. Heimdall felt all of it at once. The wolf's freedom, the serpent's rising, Loki's laughter, the fire giant's march beginning. Every dread thing happening simultaneously. The moment he was born for. His golden hand closed around the Jallarhorn. He lifted it. The weight of it was nothing. The weight of what it meant was everything. One breath. One sound. He drew a breath. The last peaceful breath in all 9 realms. The air tasted of salt and starlight and the beginning of fire. Heimdall blew the Jallarhorn. The sound that ends the world tore across every realm, every mountain, every sleeping soul. Gods dropped their mead. Warriors seized their swords. Mothers held their children. The echo rolled on, bouncing off Yggdrasil's branches, rattling hell's gates, shaking the roots of mountains. The watchman's voice, heard at last. Ragnarok had begun. The Jallarhorn's echo faded into a ringing silence. Heimdall lowered the horn with steady hands. Around him, the 9 realms scrambled toward their fates. In Valhalla, the Einherjar rose. The battle, slain of 1,000 years, fed on boar meat and mead for this single purpose. They had trained every day for the end. The end had come. Odin mounted Sleipnir. His golden armor blazed. Gungnir, the spear that never misses, gleamed in his fist. His ravens took flight for the last time, carrying no messages, only farewell. Thor buckled his belt of strength and pulled on his iron gloves. Mjolnir crackled. Lightning answered from every cloud in every realm. The thunder god had one fight left. Freyja donned her falcon cloak and her war crown. Brei Singamen burned at her throat. She had claimed half the battle, slain for centuries. Now she would lead them. Tyr, the one-handed god of justice, tested his sword grip. He had lost his right hand to Fenrir's jaws long ago. Today he would face the wolf's hellhound brother, Garmr. Heimdall watched them all from the bridge, his children. For that is what gods become to the one who watches over them. Armed for their last battle, beautiful and doomed. From the south, fire. Surtur's army crested the horizon like a second sunrise. 10,000 fire giants carrying blades that burned the air itself. The ground blackened beneath their march. From the east, the dead. Naglfar, the ship made from the fingernails of corpses, sailed on a sea of ghosts. Loki stood at its prow, scars gleaming, free at last and hungry for it. From below, the wolf. Fenrir ran with his mouth open, a canyon of teeth and hunger and ancient rage. The earth split beneath his paws. Mountains crumbled in his wake. From the deep ocean, the serpent. Jormungandr rose, miles of scaled body erupting from the sea, venom pouring from its jaws, poisoning the very clouds with its breath. The Bifrost trembled. Heimdall felt it through his boots, a vibration he had never felt in all his millennia of standing here. The bridge was afraid. He placed his palm flat against the bridge one final time. He had stood here since before human memory. He had felt mortal warmth through this surface. He had loved this post. Surtur's army reached the bridge first. The Lord of Fire set foot on the Bifrost raced, and the colors screamed. Fire, red overwhelmed by true fire. Ice blue evaporating, gold melting. The bridge shattered, not all at once, in a spreading wave, like ice on a river in spring. Fragments of rainbow light fell into the void between realms, burning as they dropped. Heimdall did not look back at the breaking bridge. He had already said goodbye. His eyes were forward now, on the plain of Gruyere, where destiny waited like an open grave. The armies met on Grar with a sound that had no name. The collision of gods and giants, and the dead and the burning. The sky itself cracked from the impact. Odin charged Fenrir on Sleipnir's 8 legs. The Allfather's spear blazed. The wolf's jaws opened. Father of gods meeting father of monsters. The prophecy unfolding exactly as written. Thor found his serpent. Jormungandr found its thunder god. They had been enemies since the fishing trip where Thor nearly pulled the serpent from the sea. Now came the reckoning. Heimdall moved through the chaos searching for one face. One pair of green eyes. The crowds of gods and giants parted around him like water around a stone. He had one purpose left. Fimbulwinter's mark was everywhere. 3 years without summer had starved the mortal world. Ice-covered fields that once grew grain. Rivers froze to their beds. Hope froze with them. Brothers had fought brothers in those 3 terrible winters. Morality froze alongside the rivers. Desperate people did desperate things. The world Heimdall watched was already dying before the battle began. Skilel caught the sun. His brother Hati swallowed the moon. Darkness fell across every realm simultaneously, the deepest dark since before creation. Only fire and divine light remained. In that darkness, Heimdall's golden skin became a beacon. He glowed brighter than he ever had. The light of 9 mothers, the light of centuries of vigil, burning through the end of days. Loki saw the light. Across the burning field, through the smoke and screams and falling bodies, the trickster's green eyes locked onto the watchman's gold. Acceptance, hatred refined to purity. They walked toward each other. Not running, not charging, walking, as if the battlefield cleared a path for them. As if even Ragnarok paused to watch this meeting. Loki's form flickered. Old habit, the instinct to shift, to dodge, to become something else. But he steadied. For once, the trickster would face his enemy as himself. Heimdall drew Echfuri. The cold fire along the blade caught Loki's features. The scars, the clever mouth, the eyes that saw every weakness. The sword had waited for this face. "You should have let me take the necklace," Loki said softly. His own blade appeared in his hand. Dark metal, no runes, forged in shadow. Would it have mattered? Heimdall answered with the silence Loki had always hated. Then both moved at once, gold and shadow colliding in a flash that outshone even Surtur's burning sword. The final watch had begun. Steel met shadow in a ring of sparks. Afu's cold fire bit into Loki's dark blade. And the sound was not metal. It was the screaming of 2 destinies colliding at last. Loki fought like water, flowing, shifting, never where the blade expected. His feet barely touched the ground. Every strike came from a different angle, a different rhythm. Heimdall fought like stone, rooted, immovable. Every attack met by a defense that had been practiced for millennia. He did not need to be faster. He needed to endure. Around them, the world ended in pieces. Odin's golden armor disappeared into Fenrir's mouth. The wolf swallowed the Allfather whole, spear ravens, and all the wisdom of ages. Vr, Odin's silent son, avenged his father instantly, tearing Fenrir's jaw apart with bare hands and a single enchanted boot. The wolf fell, but Odin did not rise. Thor smashed Mjolnir into Jormungander's skull 9 times. Each blow split thunder across the sky. On the 9th strike, the serpent collapsed, dead at last, its venom spent. Thor stepped back from the serpent's corpse, took 9 steps. Then the venom in his veins finished its work. The thunder god fell. Mjolnir hit the earth beside him and did not bounce. Heimdall felt each death like a string snapping in his chest. Odin. Thor. The heartbeats he had monitored for Odin's gone. But his sword arm did not waver. Grief would wait, Loki would not. Your father is dead, watchman. Your thunder friend is dead. Who do you guard now? What bridge? What realm? What purpose? Heimdall answered this time. 3 words spoken with the calm of deep water. I guard you. An ancient foe struck with the force of everything he had ever watched over. The blow landed. Loki staggered back, dark blade cracked, green blood pouring from a wound across his chest. His eyes widened, not with pain but with a strange, broken respect. Tar fell to Garmr, Freyr fell to Surtur. The gods dropped one by one like stars burning out, each death a silence where a heartbeat used to be. Heimdall heard them all. Fire ate the edges of the world. Surtur had begun his true work, not battle but burning. His sword swept across the horizon, and everything it touched became ash and memory. Yggdrasil groaned, the world tree catching fire at its crown. Leaves flamed and fell like burning snow across the 9 realms. The eagle screamed. The serpent at the roots went silent. Heimdall and Loki circled each other in the burning world. Their duel had outlasted kingdoms. Blood, gold and green, mixed in the mud beneath their feet. Loki shifted once more, a desperate lunge, becoming shadow itself, trying to slide past Heimdall's guard the way darkness slides past light. But Heimdall saw darkness he always had. Hafu caught Loki as he reformed. The blade passed through the trickster's side, cold fire meeting warm blood. Loki gasped, the sound almost like relief. But Loki's dark blade found Heimdall at the same moment. Through the gap in the silver armor, into the golden flesh, 2 swords, 2 wounds, 2 gods falling together. They fell. Not apart, together. The watchman and the trickster, tangled on the burning ground. Loki's head rested against Heimdall's shoulder. Whether by accident or choice, no one knows. Heimdall's amber eyes dimmed, but slowly. Even dying, he watched. The fire spreading. The sky cracking apart. The last warriors falling. His gaze held the world until the world held nothing. Silence came after. Not the silence of peace, the silence of absence. Where 9 realms had hummed with life, there was nothing. Surtur's fire had consumed even itself. The ash settled for what might have been days or centuries. Time had no meaning in a place with nothing to measure it against. Just gray, just quiet, just the memory of what was. Then light, not Surtur's fire, not Heimdall's glow, something gentler coming from beneath the ash. A green tendril pushing upward through the gray. Life impossibly returning. The ash washed away. Rain fell. Clean rain without venom or fire. It pooled in the shapes of old rivers and found the paths that water always finds. The earth remembered how to be alive. A new sun rose, born from the old sun's daughter, who had survived the wolves. Smaller, perhaps. Warmer, certainly. The kind of light that does not blind but invites. 2 humans emerged from Yggdrasil's trunk, Leif and Lidif Razir. They had sheltered inside the world tree during the fire. They stepped into the morning with the caution of newborn deer. Yggdrasil still stood, burned, scarred, stripped of its crown, but standing. Its deepest roots had survived beneath the fire. The world tree does not die, it only changes. Young gods walked in the new meadows. Children of the fallen, carrying their parents' memories. Baldur returned from Hell's domain, beautiful again. The first death undone by the world's rebirth. They found Hfui and Jallarhorn in the ash, clean, untouched by fire. As if Surtur's flames had refused to touch them. Or as if something had protected them. The tools of a watchman, waiting for new hands. Where the Bifrost had been, a shimmer remained. Not a bridge yet, but the promise of one. 3 colors faintly visible in the sky between the new earth and whatever lies above. The new world was quieter, softer at the edges. The mountains were not as tall, the oceans not as deep. As if creation had learned gentleness from its own destruction. Lef and Lisif Razor built the first hearth, a small circle of stones. A careful fire, because fire meant something different now. Warmth, yes, but also the memory of what it could become. Birds returned first, then fish in the rivers, then deer at the forest edges. Each creature arriving as if remembering an appointment it had almost missed. The young gods gathered Heimdall's artifacts and spoke his name. Not a prayer, a promise. That the new world would remember what the old one had lost, that the watch would be kept. The faint rainbow in the sky brightened, just a fraction. As if hearing the promise, the Bifrost's ghost began to remember its own shape. Baldur lifted the Jallarhorn. Its weight surprised him, heavier than it looked. Carved from the root of a tree that had survived the death of everything, it held that weight. He did not blow it, that was not his role. He set it at the place where the rainbow's shimmer touched the earth. The future foot of a bridge that would need a future guardian. Night fell on the new world, and for the first time there were stars. Different stars, cleaner, brighter. As if the old constellations had been reforged along with everything else. Somewhere in those stars a golden light pulsed, faint, steady, like a heartbeat. Like the rhythm of someone who never stops watching, even from the other side of death. This story survived the centuries because someone refused to let it die. Picture a Viking poet in a smoky hall, reciting Heimdall's vigil to warriors who understood what it meant to keep watch. The poems were never written down, not at first. They lived in the breath of the skalds, in the rhythm of alliterative verse, passed from teacher to student across generations of cold, dark winters. When Christianity reached the Norse lands, a scholar named Snorri Sturluson saw the old stories disappearing. He wrote them down, the Prose Edda, preserving gods he no longer worshipped but could not bear to forget. Every retelling changed something. Details shifted like Loki's shape, a name altered here, a battle embellished there. The core survived, the watchman at the bridge, the horn that ends the world. The story you are hearing tonight has passed through 1,000 voices to reach yours. Each teller kept the fire burning. Each listener kept the story breathing. You are part of that chain now. Back in the reborn world, seasons past, the young gods established new halls, simpler than Asgard, humbler. They had inherited their parents' power, and their parents' knowledge of what power costs. The rainbow shimmer grew stronger each day, 3 colors braiding themselves into something solid. Slowly, the way ice forms on still water, the new bridge was building itself. Lef and Ludief Razor's children grew strong. They explored the new world with fearless curiosity, climbing the recovering mountains, swimming in the cleansed seas, finding old things buried in new soil. One child found a golden scale in the riverbed, smooth, warm, shaped like a teardrop. She held it to the light and saw, for just a moment, an amber eye looking back at her. She carried it home and placed it on the mantel. That night, she dreamed of a man made of gold standing on a bridge of light. Watching over her sleep, she was not afraid. The new Bifrost solidified on a winter morning, complete and burning with the same 3 colors. But it was thinner now, more delicate. A bridge that remembered being shattered. The young gods needed a guardian. They stood at the bridge's foot where Echa Fui and Jallarhorn waited, and they remembered the stories their parents had told of the one who never slept. No one volunteered at first. To take Heimdall's place meant choosing his loneliness, his silence, his centuries of standing between comfort and duty. It was not a glamorous calling. Then a young god, unnamed in the surviving stories, perhaps deliberately, stepped forward. Quiet, patient. Eyes that already seemed to look beyond what was in front of them. The young god picked up H. Furi. The cold fire recognized new hands and burned brighter. Then the Jallarhorn, and the horn hummed a single low note, as if welcoming its new keeper. The new guardian ascended the Bifrost, each step steadier than the last. The bridge hummed beneath them the way it had hummed beneath Heimdall. The sound of recognition, of homecoming. They took their post. The wind blew cold from the north, the same wind that had always blown. The stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere below, a mortal child was being born, and the new watchman heard its first cry. The old stories do not tell us this guardian's name. Perhaps that was the point. The watch is bigger than any single watcher. The duty outlives the one who holds it. In the new Asgard, they carved Heimdall's story into the walls of the watchtower. Not as decoration, as instruction. A reminder of what the post demands and what it gives. Among the carvings, one panel showed Heimdall and Loki fallen together. Not as enemies, as 2 halves of something necessary. Order and chaos, locked in the embrace that ended the old world and permitted the new. The mortal world below grew peaceful. Farms multiplied, villages became towns. Children grew up telling each other stories of the golden man on the rainbow bridge who watches while you sleep. Some nights, travelers swore they saw a golden figure on the aurora. Not the new guardian, but something behind them. Older, watching the watcher. A guardian for the guardian. Centuries turned again. The new world aged with a grace the old one never had. Slower, more careful, aware that beauty could be burned. The scars of Ragnarok taught the cosmos gentleness. The girl who found the golden scale grew old. She told her grandchildren about the amber eye she had seen inside it. They believed her. Some truths survive only because someone insists they are true. Heimdall's name became a whisper in bedtime prayers. Not the thunderous invocation of Thor or the solemn call to Odin. Just a quiet word. Heimdall. That was enough. The new guardian heard those prayers too, smiled at them. A faint smile, gold teeth catching starlight. Wait, gold teeth. The old stories never mentioned that detail about the new guardian. Perhaps some guardians do not truly die. Perhaps they simply change form. The way the bridge rebuilds, the way the tree regrows, the way the sun's daughter takes her mother's path across the sky. The bridge hummed its 3-note song. Fire, ice, and sacred light. The same song it had always hummed. The same song it would hum when the next guardian took the post, and the next, and the next. Down in Midgard, a mother rocked her child. The aurora painted the sky outside her window. The baby's eyes closed. Somewhere above, a golden pair of eyes opened wider. The vigil continued. This is the part of the story where words grow quieter, where the telling slows like a river widening into a lake, where the current is still there but gentler, carrying you rather than pulling. The new world settled into its rhythms. Tide in, tide out, sun up, sun down, the guardian watching, the bridge humming, the tree growing, a cosmic lullaby of repetition and constancy. Stars drifted overhead. The golden one pulsed steadily among them, a heartbeat made of light. Whether it was Heimdall or just a star that remembered him, it did not matter, it watched. The wind eased across the bridge. Night sounds softened. The creak of the tree, the lap of distant water, the breathing of a world asleep. Even the guardian's armor stopped, catching the light. Somewhere in Midgard, a fox crossed a field under moonlight. Not the Bifrost, just a field. Just moonlight. Just a fox doing what foxes do when no one is watching. The guardian heard the fox's heartbeat, quick, warm, alive. The same sound Heimdall had loved. The tiny proof that something living moves through the darkness. The aurora danced slowly, green and violet ribbons across the sky. Thor's old aurora cloak now spread across the heavens themselves. A gift that outlasted both the giver and the receiver. Yggdrasil's new leaves rustled in a breeze from nowhere. Each leaf held a world. Each branch held a story. The tree whispered them all simultaneously, the longest, softest bedtime story ever told. The well of fate still flowed at the tree's base. The new Norns carved gentler fates into the bark, not because the future held no struggle, but because they carved with more compassion. In the waters of the well, a reflection. Not the future, the past. Heimdall's golden face, peaceful, looking up through the water at anyone who looked down, as if to say, I am still here, I never left. The night deepened. The Bifrost's glow softened to a lullaby light, not the fierce burning of its youth, but the warm, steady pulse of something that has learned to comfort, rather than defend. This story still echoes in places you might not expect. When Wagner composed his Ring Cycle, Heimdall's horn became the call that opens an opera about the end of the gods. Tolkien read the old Norse poems and shaped them into Middle-earth. His watchful elves, his crumbling bridges, his final battles against impossible odds, Heimdall's shadow falls across every page. Psychologists found in Ragnarok a framework for understanding how cultures process catastrophe. The myth says everything you love will end. And then, you build again. What else would you do? Every culture has its Heimdall, the guardian at the threshold, the one who stands between the known and the unknown, between safety and chaos. Humanity needs to believe someone is watching. That belief is not weakness. It is the foundation on which every civilization rests. Someone watches. Someone cares. Someone stands between you and the long night. Even if that someone is a story. The deepest night passed over the new world. The guardian stood through all of it, as Heimdall had, as the next would, as the one after that. The Bifrost hummed its patient three-note song. A hint of gray at the horizon. Not dawn yet, the promise of dawn. The space between night and morning, where the world holds its breath and wonders if the sun will return. The guardian shifted their weight. The smallest movement after hours of perfect stillness. Gold teeth caught the first gray light. The vigil's rhythm changing from night watch to dawn watch. Below, the first rooster crowed in Midgard. A sound so ordinary it was sacred. It meant morning. It meant the night had been survived. It meant the guardian had done their job. Dawn spread slowly, first golden, then pink, then the full blue of a morning that does not know the word Ragnarok. A morning born clean and new and ignorant of fire. The golden star faded in the brightening sky. Not gone, just invisible against the sun, waiting for night to return. Waiting, as it always waits, to watch again. Children in Midgard woke and ran outside. Their laughter carried upward, past birds, past clouds, past the Bifrost where the guardian caught it like catching snowflakes. The sound of what he protected. The bridge hummed brighter in the daylight. Its three colors sang together: fire, ice, and something sacred that has no name. The melody of a world that refuses to end. The new world turned on its axis. The old stories slept in the soil like seeds. And on the Rainbow Bridge, the vigil that began before human memory continued, as it always would, as it always must. Heimdall's amber eyes still watch from wherever the brave and faithful go. Through the golden star, through the well's reflection, through every parent who checks on a sleeping child one more time. And the Jallarhorn waits, polished, silent, ready for a voice it hopes will never be needed again. But ready, always ready. That is the watchman's way. Remember this, as the story gentles toward its close. Heimdall did not fight because he thought he could win. He fought because the fighting was the point. The standing was the point. Every night you close your eyes, you trust that the morning will come. That trust is ancient. It was forged on a rainbow bridge by a god who chose to watch while the world slept. The 9 realms breathe slowly now, in, out, out, the rhythm of worlds at peace. The rhythm of the watched, the rhythm that tells you someone is keeping count. The Bifrost hums its lullaby, 3 notes: fire for warmth, ice for stillness, sacred light for the space between waking and dreaming. You are in that space now. You are safe. Heimdall watches, through the star, through the stories, through the ancient knowing that some things never truly end. They only close their eyes and listen to the bridge hum, and wait for morning. What does it mean, a god who watches? Not a god who conquers or creates or destroys, but one who simply stands and sees. The Norse gave that act the weight of divinity. Heimdall's vigil says something the louder gods cannot. That the world needs protectors who do not seek glory. That the truest strength is the kind no one applauds. The bridge itself carries meaning. A rainbow, the most beautiful and most temporary thing in the sky. The Norse made it permanent and set a god to guard it, beauty worth defending. 9 mothers gave their lives to make one guardian. That sacrifice echoes in every parent who gives up sleep, comfort, and self so their child can stand tall. The Jallarhorn reminds us that some things can only be said once. Some warnings, some truths, some confessions. They lose their power if repeated. One voice, one moment, one chance to mean it. Loki and Heimdall dying together tells the oldest truth. You cannot have light without shadow. You cannot have order without chaos. The universe needs both, even when they destroy each other. The Norse did not fear endings. They built them into their holiest story. Everything dies, even gods, even the world tree, even the bridge of light, and everything begins again. Heimdall as Gur, the god walking among mortals, reveals something tender. The guardian wanted to know what he guarded. He needed faces for the heartbeats, names for the warmth. He fathered thralls, farmers, and kings. The entire spectrum of human society. The message every life is equally worth guarding. The king's heartbeat and the laborer's beat the same. The seal battle at Singastine, Heimdall and Loki fighting in animal form, speaks to something primal. Some conflicts are so fundamental they exist below language, below thought, in the body itself. And Sigyn, Loki's wife holding the bowl, mirrors Heimdall's vigil exactly. 2 beings, one in light and one in darkness, both refusing to abandon their post. Loyalty wears different faces. The gold teeth, Gullantani, are a beautiful detail. Even the most solemn guardian carries something that catches the light unexpectedly. Something warm, something almost playful. A reminder that duty does not require joylessness. Odin's answer stays with us. Standing is the point, not the outcome. 8 words that contain the entire philosophy of Norse mythology. The courage to act without the promise of success. We carry this philosophy when we choose the harder right over the easier wrong. When we stay up with a sick friend. When we say the uncomfortable truth, when we refuse to look away. The myth does not ask you to be a god. It asks you to notice. To pay attention to the small sounds, the cracking chain, the growing grass, the heartbeat that falters. Attention is sacred. Tonight, as the story settles around you like a blanket, consider this: you are being watched over. By the stories. By the telling. By the ancient habit of one creature caring about another. The Bifrost is not just a bridge in a story. It is the connection between what we are and what we might become. Between the known and the divine. Between waking and the worlds we visit in sleep. Someone guards that crossing too. Call it what you like. The body's wisdom, the mind's sentinel. The part of you that knows you're safe enough to let go. Your own inner Heimdall. The golden star pulses above. The bridge hums below. Between them you drift, carried by a story that has held sleepers safe for 3,000 years. It will hold you too. Rest now. The meanings will still be here in the morning. The bridge will still hum. The guardian will still stand. Some things do not require your attention to continue. Let them continue without you, for a while. Heimdall's legacy lives in the quiet places. Not in thunder or spectacle. In the lighthouse keeper climbing the stairs at dusk. In the nurse checking monitors through the small hours. Every bridge in the world carries his echo. The span between here and there. The structure that says crossing is possible. Because someone built a way and someone keeps it standing. The rainbow itself became his monument. Every time light breaks through rain and paints those colors across the sky, something ancient stirs. A memory older than memory. A bridge that once was real. The horn's echo persists in every alarm, every siren, every call to attention. The idea that one clear sound can change everything. That awareness itself is a form of power. Norse sailors steered by stars and trusted the horizon to hold its shape. That trust was Heimdall's gift. The faith that the boundary between the known world and the unknown is guarded. In Iceland, where Snorri wrote the old tales down, the northern lights still dance on winter nights. Locals sometimes call them the Bifrost, half joking, half believing the best stories live in that space. The world still needs its watchers. Those who stay awake so others can sleep. Those who pay attention when attention is expensive. Heimdall's gold still glows in every one of them, and the bridge rebuilds itself in every act of connection. Every hand extended across a divide. Every word spoken to close a distance. Every story told to someone who needs to hear it. This story was that bridge tonight, from 1,000 years ago to your pillow. From the edge of the world to wherever you rest. The Bifrost carried you here, you crossed safely. The vigil that began at the edge of creation reaches you now, soft, steady, golden. Heimdall's watch was never just about gods and giants. It was always about you. The bridge hums soft now. Barely a whisper. 3 colors dim to the faintest glow. Just enough to see by. Just enough to know the path is there. You do not need to walk it. Just know it holds. The guardian breathes slowly on the bridge above. In out, matching your rhythm now. Matching the tide. Matching the ancient pulse of a world that knows how to rest. Stars turn overhead. The golden one among them dims to match the others. Not leaving, just resting its light. Even guardians close their eyes sometimes. Even watchers dream. The world tree sways in a wind you cannot feel. Its leaves make the sound of 1,000 quiet pages turning. Stories folding closed. Covers drawn over sleeping words. The 9 realms settle into silence. One by one their sounds fade. The last bird, the last wave, the last creak of ancient wood, until all that remains is the hum low, warm, constant. Somewhere, a fox curls into its den. Somewhere, a whale sinks into the deep. Somewhere a child's hand relaxes around a blanket's edge. The whole world letting go at once. The bridge hums. The star glows. The tree breathes. These 3 things will still be happening when you wake. They do not need you to witness them. They only need you to rest. Let the story go now, it will keep. It has kept for 3,000 years. It will be here tomorrow, and the night after. And every night you need a guardian to watch while you sleep. Good night, the bridge hums for you. The star watches for you. The ancient golden guardian stands between you and every dark thing. And will stand there until morning. Heimdall watches.